Hey guys, we are back with DSP again. This time we're going to be looking at his daily wrap. And I feel that this is probably the best thing that we can do for this channel moving forward, just to have something to talk about most days. Because half the time when I'm watching him, I'm just bored out of my mind. But this is when we get like the best examples of him just trying to gaslight everybody in these little videos where he recounts what happened during the day, which are ultimately pointless and they get like next to no views. But it does give us a good look into what he thought was a good day or what he thought was a bad day, and how he tries to just cover up whatever actually happened during that day, despite the fact that his streams are actually still up and live, and regardless of the fact that he will cut out the parts where he's just begging his audience to give him more money in between the in between his like hourly breaks or whatever. So we're just going to look at this stuff today because this is probably the best day to look at it after his return to Tears of the Kingdom, which is something that I wanted to cover more of, and I probably will do that in another video because he went on a very, very big rant regarding that game. Most of the stuff that he said was incorrect or just in general misinformed. And so I wanted to take a little bit to talk about it, despite because I went into that game not expecting to like it, and I came out of the game liking it a lot. But we'll talk about that another time. Right now, let's just see what he has to say about how his day went.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Wrap for what was Tuesday, the 13th of June, 2023. In my opinion, a great streaming day.
Okay, right off the bat, I can already tell you, and I'm not going to comment on this all the time. He does not know how to do a proper setup, and he doesn't know how to edit out his setup either. Because you can see you can see in here his mouse clicking when he goes to start the recording, and he is constantly looking at himself in the viewfinder. This is something that you should do when you're setting up for a recording such as this. It's not something that you do on the fly, unless it's like you're streaming and somebody says like, hey, you're out of focus or the camera's not working or whatever, which using a virtual avatar happens somewhat frequently, so I had to adjust myself. Most streamers will have that kind of thing happen where they just had to adjust something on the fly. But if you're recording something like this, you should sort of have things set up before you hit record. And even then, you should edit that stuff out so that everything is just a clean transition. And he does not do that. Much like his setup is just very haphazardly put together.
First of all, when we started off today, this was not my final streaming day of the week, and a lot of people were a little confused by that because I am here tomorrow as well. A longer streaming week for me this week, but an interesting podcast because not only did we have a lot to discuss in regards to some gaming news and stuff, you know, all these conferences and things that have been happening, but I talked a lot about Street Fighter 6 and how to approach covering it in the future. And then I sneezed.
Edit this out. Nobody cares. Seriously, whenever you have some sort of bodily function go on and you have the ability to edit it out or mute yourself, you should probably do that. But he is very, very belligerent about it. The only time he's ever muted himself on stream is when he was on side-scrollers. He would mute himself whenever he needed to cough. And it was very obvious when he muted himself because his fan was running in the background and you would just hear that thing cut out for like a couple of seconds, and then he would turn away from the mic to cough. In the case of this, he just doesn't. And on the case of his normal streams, he also doesn't. He actually will like sneeze, cough, and snort into the mic, probably as a way to just sort of exercise some form of dominance over his audience. Like, I can do all this and you can't do anything about it. And it's like, yeah, we can just tune you out. And it is disgusting. And he does it all the time. And people have left because he does it all the time. It's not something that is becoming of someone like him. Like, he's used to it, but still. It's not something that anybody should really do. Like, he should really have learned to mute himself a long time ago. And he will come with every excuse in the world about why he can't hit the mute button. But we all know he can. We all know he can program something into OBS to mute himself. We all know he can just hit the mute button on his microphone. But he just won't do it.
One of the major things we discussed is how am I going to cover Street Fighter 6 moving forward. There's two schools of thought. Continue to cover new characters, because as of today, I've now played 9 of the 18 characters since the game came out, which is great, but I haven't really focused on any of them to get better. I'm just doing a very cursory glance at each character, playing them a little bit. Maybe in some cases like Lily or Dalsim or Blanca, I've played second or third sessions that may be a little better with them. But overall, I haven't really focused in on anyone and gotten better. Instead, I just keep playing new characters. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. For example, the Minot stream I did the other day did not work. That was pretty much a waste of time. Couldn't learn the character in that short period of time. Other streams, like, you know, today's stream with Marisa, that went really well. So I guess it depends on various factors.
This is actually a really bad way to approach the game. Like, I'm not a big fighting game player. Most fighting games that I have played and that I really like are Guilty Gear Xrd, Skullgirls, and Idle Showdown, which is the whole breadth of my fighting game knowledge. So I'm not good. I don't pretend to be good, but even I know this is a terrible approach to playing a character. Like, even on like launch day, when you're trying to cover as much as possible, you try to go through each character as quickly as possible and just get a slight handle on how they're supposed to be played. Because the tutorials are very, very good at telling you how to play a character. At least now they are. Like, just watching some other people play Street Fighter, you can tell, like, people learn pretty quickly on, this is what you're supposed to do with this character. This is how you're kind of supposed to approach the game. For him, I honestly do not know why he is stretching out these character sessions, because there are 18 of them. And if he does like 5 character sessions a week, it's going to take him a month before he decides on a main. Like, that is not really a good way to do the content for this game. He should just pick a main and try to start laddering with them. But for the most part, his approach is pick a character, do the placements and a few more matches with them, and then depending on how much he won, say whether or not the character is good or bad. Which really just means, can I pub stomp with this character? Because Phil is at heart a gatekeeper. He just pub stomps and beats people who literally have no idea what they're doing, because the second he gets put into like platinum rank as a character, he loses hard. Like, he will get perfected. He will just lose almost everything because he's a very easy player to read. And it's really interesting to watch how many excuses he comes up with. But as far as like, if you're looking for good fighting game content, it's not really what you want to be watching. Like, you want to watch somebody who has picked a character, try to get better with that one character. And because he hasn't picked a character in all the time that he's been playing the game, it's just frustrating to watch him because he's basically just going in as a fresh face every single time he streams. And a person who's just going to tune into him to say, hey, what's the Street Fighter player looking like? They're going to tune out like almost immediately if they know that like he's not going to stick with this character. That's not really a good way to approach this game, because as far as I know, most of the people who have played Street Fighter at this point have picked a main, or they got all their character analyses out of the way early on, either by watching other people who have played or going through the roster in like a day. I'm pretty sure like people like Maximilian have gone through the entire roster over the course of like a day or 2 days and have already picked a character. I don't know who that is, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. And then they're just laddering with them. And that's fine. That's how you're supposed to play the game at this point. Like, or just do longer streams. Like, that's another solution too. Just doing longer streams where you pick maybe 2 characters as opposed to what he does, which is like a relatively short stream of just one character. It's just a really, really bad way to approach like a new fighting game like this, especially when it's the one thing that a lot of people are paying attention to see like of the fighting game community, if anybody's going to rise to the top, if there's any sort of shakeups within the FGC about who's going to be the best player this year or something like that. It's interesting to think about, but he's completely on the outside of that. And even to a casual learner of fighting games, he's not that compelling to watch.
But there seems to be a disagreement among my viewing audience. Do you want to see me continue to keep tackling new characters, but that means I'm not going to get better at the game right away? Or would you rather, now that I played the game for about almost 2 weeks, start doing streams where I'm focusing on the characters that I've played and liked? So, you know, Blanca, Lily, Dalsim, probably Zangief, probably Marisa, maybe another character like going back possibly to Honda or something like that. That's definitely a possibility, but I need to decide if that's what we're doing. And there's no agreement. Right now, there's a split. There is a split between my audience about what we should do. So I'd like your feedback on this. Would you prefer to see me continue to just keep picking new characters and exploring it in that regard, not caring about really the competitive play, but instead just exploring in general the game itself? Or are you more interested in now seeing me try to, you know, learn these characters better so I can do better when I play online and actually get some wins and ranked and try to up my rankings and things like that? Give me your opinions, give me your feedback. This is going to be critical in me deciding what I'm going to do moving forward with Street Fighter 6.
I like to point out that he's actually talking to nobody at this point. Like, there are very, very few people who actually leave comments on the Daily Wrap. Like, I'm looking at it right now, and there are a total of 3 comments that are not him. And it's just like someone saying, your channel is great, good luck, and like general platitudes that don't really mean anything. He's not getting the feedback that he quote unquote wants from the people who watch these videos because he's not getting any feedback at all. And in general, as a content creator, he should be deciding on this stuff for himself. He always likes to say like, oh, there's a split between my viewing audience between this thing and that thing, and there's no pleasing everybody. Yeah, that's the case because sometimes your viewers want different things, and it's your job to figure out what they want, usually not by directly asking them. You can watch your analytics to see what they want. And in general, see how they behave in terms of like how many messages per second they send, like in terms of like active chats. You can look at that metric, by the way. How many viewers you get on a certain given like timestamp. There's a whole bunch of different things he can look at in the analytics tab of his page in order to figure out what his viewers want. But he'd rather just have that information spoon-fed to him. Much like his win-loss record, which is actually in the game itself. He would rather have a viewer send in what his win-loss record is in a $30 super chat than actually look for the information himself. Mostly because that information comes with $30, but also because he's too lazy to look at that information himself. He'd rather just have it spoon-fed to him. And that's like the way he approaches a lot of how he plays things. But either way, it's still not really a good thing to do. Is like, hey, my viewing audience is undecided on this stuff. So what do you guys think? I mean, the people who are your viewing audience are also watching this, so their opinions are probably not going to change either way. But you should still just decide for yourself on what you should do because you're the person running this channel. You're the content creator. You determine what goes. Like, stop just like relying on your viewers to say what they want, because the real reason he does this is because he wants his viewers like to decide for him so that when it eventually fails, he can blame his viewers for why it failed. He does not want to do anything on his own because if he makes a mistake, then he has nobody to blame but himself. But if he does something that his viewers say they want, then he can blame them for their mistake. Because it wasn't his fault that the thing flopped, it was their fault, and they should have known better. But that's never the case. With anything in content creation, the person who is ultimately responsible for the content is the content creator. If I make a bad stream because I'm playing a game nobody wants to see, that's on me, and I know better than to play that game next time, or to talk about that subject next time. It's just the way things go.
Okay, outside of that, there was other various topics that we discussed, but that was the major one, okay? Then I played Street Fighter 6 with Marisa for the first time. And let me tell you guys something. I'm not a master of this character or anything, but I did way, way better with Marisa than I had done with any other character recently. I would say probably Blanca I did really good. Honda did I do? I'm trying not Honda. JP I did really good. I'm pretty sure I did pretty good with Marisa. Not amazing, but I won a lot. I was actually getting big combos with her. I was punishing with her. It was good. I kind of clicked with the character. And that's a good thing when you find a character you're clicking with, you kind of understand that style. So it worked. And I did well, and people really enjoyed the stream. I did too. Sadly, I think some people are kind of like, oh, Phil's just going to suck, so they're not tuning into the streams, but it went really well today. It's not always going to be me sucking, especially if I do decide to start picking these characters again to get better with them, rather than always picking a new character. So, went really well. Support today.
Before he gets into the whole angle about support, I did watch his gameplay of Marisa, and what he did was pub stop. The people that he was playing had no idea what they were doing. That's the reason he won. He went into, I believe, casual lobbies for a little bit, and that's where he got this inflated ego from, just from beating up people in the casual lobbies who are other people like just trying out characters or just trying out the game for the first time, so they don't want to go into ranked. The second he went into ranked, he got his ass handed to him. But don't tell him that, because he won't believe it. Also, he was playing in gold for the most part as well when he wasn't ranked, which is also where he got a lot of his wins, because most people in gold are trash at the game. After getting past gold is when you start to get fighting in players who know what they're doing a bit more. Because that's usually after you get past the people who are just like kind of fooling around with characters, trying to learn characters, or people who are just like who are new to the game and just trying out ranked because they feel like it, because they don't really care all that much. But it's this way with most games with a ranking system. Gold is where you finally leave the newbie zone, and after that is when you start getting into matches where you have to know what you're doing a bit more. It's the same thing with every competitive game, regardless if it's like a one-on-one fighting game or if it's a 5v5 MOBA. After gold is when you actually had to know what you're doing. And after gold is where he gets his ass kicked because he clearly doesn't know what he's doing. There was one match in particular I think most people bring up where he got perfected by a guile. And that was really funny. He got so mad about that, but still. Like, he is playing against people who do not know what they're doing and who are worse at the game than he is, and he believes he's a good player for it, when that isn't the case. He still can't hold his own against anybody who has played fighting games to any sort of serious capacity because of just how he plays. He still plays like it's super turbo.
I mean, holy moly, super chats were good, a lot of gifted memberships and the like, but tips were a little bit on the slower side. Nothing you can really do about that, and I'm not going to complain when everything else was great, all right? Now, we had a big problem with PayPal today. It's been an ongoing problem for 2 days. Where people are tipping me, I'm not getting notification right away. It was like massive delay, and sadly, I was missing contributions both last night and on today's Street Fighter stream, but I did my absolute best to try to shout them out once I was made aware that they existed, and I do apologize to anyone who maybe felt like I missed a tip tonight. That really does suck, that I might have. I want to give you guys credit for your contributions, so apologies. But the good news is, it did clear itself up by the night stream, all right?
Why is this information relevant to anybody? This is something that he does all the time. When he tries to talk about his streams to his audience like it's a business meeting. Why is it relevant to anybody about his PayPal not sending him alerts that money went through? I understand as a viewer, if you're contributing to a streamer, that you want to have your shout out read. But for the most part, if you say something like that and they check their thing, they'll be like, oh, I guess like my alerts aren't working or whatever. I'm sorry about that. And they just move on. Like, that's usually what you do, because sometimes the alerts just don't work. And you have to like kind of like just fix things in the background for like a little bit if it doesn't work. And if it consistently isn't working, then there's really nothing you can do about that, and you just move on. And maybe you thank those people later. But for the most part, like, he is the only person that watches those kinds of alerts like a hawk. And he will say it is so that he can, because he values his viewers more so than most other content creators who don't do that kind of thing. And it's like, that's not the case. It's because he can't help himself just look at when money is coming in. And that's like the one thing that I have pointed out before with him in other circles, that his choice of language when he talks about this kind of stuff isn't like somebody gave me something or whatever. Like there's a very, very distinct difference in the way that he talks about this stuff versus how other streamers talk about this kind of thing, especially when you get like a fresh contribution in. Like, if anybody gets like $10, and usually the person will say thank you as their first statement, or they will say, and they'll say their name, or they will say like somebody gave me $10, thanks for that. His canned response for everything is, I received. This doesn't seem like it's meaningful, but it really is, because his choice of words of being I received implies that he feels that he is entitled to this money, that he deserves this money, as opposed to somebody going out of the way to give it to him. He feels that he is deserving of this, that this is something that he is owed, which is really not the case. Nobody owes a streamer anything, especially someone like him. But he acts like it. And it's one of those little things that just really makes me mad about how he treats his audience and how he treats the money that comes in for him.
I'll be honest, some people were engaged and interested, and some people were there just to troll, and it kind of brought down the chat a bit. When you got people talking about the dumbest topics that have nothing to do with anything I'm interested in or talking about, and they're trying to derail the chat with idiotic questions about stuff, it's like, what an annoying group of people who are literally there, you could tell, just to be annoying.
This is another thing that gets me really upset about him. He treats his audience with so much disdain that he doesn't understand when people are being genuinely curious about other things or having conversations that don't have to involve the game, and they're just talking. And he's like saying that they're all trolling. Like, I've watched, again, some of the footage of this is where he is just pretending, like, not even watching a cutscene. He fakes enthusiasm at what happens in the cutscene, and he's spending the entire time watching his chat and banning people. Like, there really isn't a reason to do that unless your chat is that out of hand and actually saying some like really, really off-color shit. You should just let them talk about whatever they want to talk about and actually engage in conversation with them. Like, the audience is not there to entertain you. You are there to entertain the audience. And so engaging in what they're talking about is kind of important to do if you want to retain those viewers, especially if they're new viewers. Like, you never know. It could be somebody who's new and wants to talk about something else, and you just write them off as a troll and ban them. And like, yeah, there goes one person and probably a bunch of other people who may have tuned in to see what you were doing, and they see that one person get banned for no reason, and they're like, well, I'm leaving because this place isn't hospitable to me. And you might view that as a good thing. In fact, you probably do, because then that just means people like Derek are still around, and there's the only people that are engaged with you, and there's the only people that you really care about. He is his own worst villain when it comes to growth, because he just writes literally everyone off that could possibly have any passing interest in him. And last night showed that very, very well.
But thank you to the regulars who were there. However, arguably one of the slowest support streams I've had in months. No exaggeration. I think we had like 2 tips all night. We had like 2 super chats, and I think 1 membership, and that was it. Now here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and bitch about it.
You just did. You literally just did, and you're about to right now. You're going to try to guilt people into talking, like into giving you money over this, which is really, really abhorrent behavior. Like, nobody should give you money because you didn't make a lot of money one day. Like, that's just not how this business works. If you're good enough, then people will appreciate you for doing what you do, because they understand that it actually takes effort to do what you do, and you are a 0 effort person.
But Zelda is the game that I was playing last month. It's now about a month old, and I told you guys this was my concern, that if Zelda was held off like it was for me to play Diablo, that now trying to play Zelda, people weren't going to be that interested anymore. That the attendance was going to be low, the support was going to be low, and the interest was going to wane because the game is so long. Seems to be what's happening now. Okay, so
I can take this time to make a counterpoint. I watch a lot of streamers, big and small. Some of them are still playing Tears of the Kingdom, and those people are still doing well at it. They are still retaining their regular audience numbers. They are still maintaining the regular levels of support. They're still doing well playing this game. The reason is because they are charismatic enough to carry the game, even if the game itself is old at this point. I had played the game over the course of a week, every day, because I liked it that much. But I know other people who decided that they would take their time with the game and play it over the course of several weeks. And they are still doing well. Their audience is still engaged with the content, because I am a member of those audiences and I am engaged with what they're doing, because I like seeing what they have seen. And that's what a lot of other people are enjoying about watching playthroughs are a bit later as well. If somebody is taking their time with the playthrough on a game that they have already completed, they will generally want to watch somebody who is still working on the game to see their reaction to it. It's sort of just like this whole audience effect, where you want to see how somebody else views something that you thought was really cool and exciting, and see if they had that same sort of like reaction to it, and share in that experience. Like, hey, this was a really cool thing. It's like, yeah, it was a cool thing. Like, I'm glad you shared it with us. It's that kind of stuff. But thing is, Phil lacks charisma to do that. So his playthroughs are incredibly boring. Like, he can't even fake charisma when he's fighting a boss, because he's too busy reading chat to ban people. Like, he is completely like out of it for most of the playthrough, and he will blame the game for being long because of that. There are people who are still playing Elden Ring a year later, and their audiences are still engaged with them because they're making the playthrough like in some way unique, or it might be their first time playing the game and they might need some help, and the people that are in their chat are watching them and trying to help them. Like, there are many different reasons why people watch games like this, especially larger open world games, because there are things that people will like discover in their playthrough that other people who are watching have not discovered. And then they'll be like, oh, I didn't know that was there. I'm going to go back into my game file, even though I've completed the game already, and go find that thing. And then they'll go do that. That's like another reason why people will watch another person playing a game. he doesn't seem to understand that. He just thinks that people want to watch a game because it's new. And that might be the reason why people want to watch him, because there is no other option. That's why people wanted to watch him like way back, like a decade ago, because he was the only option. He literally was the only person playing this game on day one. And then once other people started playing the game, they just left because he was that toxic and that uninteresting.
I'm hoping this was just a one-off, because, you know, I can't, every time that I play Zelda, just say, well, I guess it's going to be a really bad night for any kind of support because I'm playing Zelda tonight. Like, that's bad. You know what I mean? Especially when there's so many other games people are demanding they want to see me play. There's games on the back burner that I'm avoiding because I can't play them right now. I like Zelda.
How is it your audience's fault that you're not getting money? Like, it's nobody's fault but yours. And you shouldn't pin it on them that they didn't want to give you anything to play Zelda because you're playing it badly and you're just not interesting enough to give money to. That's the thing. Like, it's your own fault that these playthroughs are boring, that people are tuning out. It is not the game's fault. And it is not their fault that you're not getting money. It's your fault.
I had a blast tonight, but I'm hoping this was just a one-off of stupid trolling and low support, and that it will pick up in future installments. I guess we'll have to see. Overall, great streaming day. I had a lot of fun, all right?
He had a lot of fun, and yet he spent most of this video bitching about low support for Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, totally. Such fun, chill, interactive vibes from this man that he had to spend all this time like berating his audience as if they're underperforming like workers for why Zelda had low support. It's pretty obvious at this point that he just wants to drop the game. Like, there's no doubt about it that he wants to drop both this game and Diablo to play more Street Fighter, but then he's putting all of his eggs in one basket. And then there are people in his chat that just want to see Diablo or that just want to see Tears of the Kingdom, but if they're not going to pay it, then he's going to drop it, which is kind of a scummy mindset to have in terms of like bring something entertaining to your viewers. But I do understand it to some degree, where if your viewers are not entertained by something, most because you are genuinely upset by what you're playing. And that has happened before with other streamers where they'll drop a game because the game itself is too frustrating to get through. It's like, it's not even fun to watch because it's like a bad game. It's just a boring game to watch. They'll drop it and play something else because they want to keep their viewer engaged and stuff. Like, I can understand from that mindset. But the thing is that he's trying to guilt people so that he can keep playing Tears of the Kingdom as opposed to just dropping it because it's not getting the support that he wants. Like, if he was actually smart about this, and even still scummy, he would drop Tears of the Kingdom and he would drop Diablo and try to find other things to play. And he's going to probably guilt people into keeping Tears of the Kingdom alive and to keeping Diablo alive until Final Fantasy 16 comes out. And then once Final Fantasy 16 comes out, he's going to play that for like 3 days, drop it to play like these other games have already like not even halfway done their long playthroughs. And he's going to complain about low support during those streams as well. And then go back to Final Fantasy 16 and complain about low support because people stopped watching him because he stopped playing it 3 days in. That's sort of how the cycle goes, especially now with all these big AAA releases coming out. That's usually how he treats them.
Tomorrow is my final consecutive streaming day of the week. Tomorrow it's going to be Street Fighter 6 on the main stream, and tomorrow I'm not using a new character. I'm going to use probably Zangief and Marisa, and maybe another character that I've used before, or maybe I'll just focus on Zangief and Marisa. We'll see. But I'm interested in trying out those characters again and seeing what I can pull off with them, okay? Delayed stream tomorrow night, more Diablo 4. We're going to continue to push the story. I've been told I should try to make major story advancement because if you get through the initial like 2-3 acts of the story, you unlock a ton of interesting stuff in the game, as opposed to if you end up just not advancing the story a lot, you end up doing more menial side stuff, and it's not really as interesting. So I'm going to try to keep pushing the story tomorrow night. One other thing. Right before I filmed this video, I filmed my recap reactions video that I'm going to upload to DSP Reacts tonight, and this features a summary and my thoughts on the Xbox showcase, the Starfield presentation, the Ubisoft Forward presentation, and the Capcom showcase over the last 2 days. Please give it a look. If you're interested in a summary, it's about 30 minutes long and it covers everything. And rather than it be me watching the raw footage for 5 hours and wasting a ton of time in streaming, instead, it's a good summary from the shows that I watched off stream. I hope you'll give it a look. It's a good coverage of everything. I'll even make it the featured video over there. Please enjoy. And by the way, please leave comments. Let me know your feedback. Did you agree with my opinions? Do you like this format of video? Please share.
I can already tell you, without even watching his stupid showcase reactions or his recap, that it's going to be a shit show. From what I've known about how he handles this stuff in the past, he basically just watches the show with a notepad in hand, writes down very, very, very minimal key points to talk about as he's watching like the program, and then misremembers them because he can't remember why he wrote down the thing that he wrote down, and then just proceeds to be angry about something, even though he doesn't really care about it at the end of the day. He already has done this with Starfield. Earlier in the day that he recorded this, he went on a rant about 30 and 60 FPS on the console and how it's like, and how it should be better, when really he doesn't know the difference. He genuinely doesn't know the difference because he hasn't played anything at 60 FPS. He doesn't do gaming on PC, and he is very, very smug over PC game by thinking it is actually inferior to console gaming. He's wrong on other bases, but I'm not going to get into that here. It would take me way too long to do that, and I believe I've already done so in a previous video. But that will be it for me for covering this stuff. Hopefully he'll have something more to cover tomorrow. Like I said, I'll try to do these like whenever he puts them out. Like, I'll try to do them in the morning, but it could take a while just because he might not be talking about something that's actually all that interesting, which he hardly ever does, but his takes are always fascinating to me. Thanks for watching this, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.